to Joe Stunner Boxing. Just a quick one regarding the PBC Amazon Prime deal, which you've probably read about already. Yesterday it was revealed that, no surprise, PBC have been talking to Amazon Prime as a possible platform, a replacement platform for Showtime, who got out of the boxing business. But there are a couple of points that are perhaps sort of less emphasised, which I thought were really interesting. Now, I read this or I listened to it and read it in a few places. Boxing IQ, by the way, have done a very, very good, far more in-depth video about this subject than this one's going to be. So go over and have a look at their video. But big shout out to them. It's a really good channel. But Stephen Espinoza, Rick Glazer actually revealed, or he was a source anyway, that states that Stephen Espinoza is going to follow PBC over to Amazon Prime and act as their sort of boxing head honcho, I suppose. I don't know, head of their production team maybe, whatever the role is. They always give it some sort of fancy poncy name, don't they? But he is going to basically take the reins on the boxing content, and also I don't think he's the only one coming over from Showtime. I think a lot of some of the other people connected behind the scenes to the Showtime boxing production are now going to be working for PBC. So you would think, yeah, Espinoza, like him or hate him, knows his stuff. Been in the boxing game a long time, good at cutting deals. Nobody's fool. Again, whether you like him or dislike him, I know some people don't like him, but it is what it is. There is no substitute for life experience, as I keep on saying ad infinitum. If you've got someone who's got a lot of experience and wants to work for you, you can work with them. Don't look a gift horse in the mouth. Get hold of that person and get them on your side. But I think it's the amount of dates that PBC will have with Amazon Prime, because I think I'm right in saying they had about 30 roughly in their deal with Showtime, and they're now going to have less than half of that. I read somewhere that it was 12. Another source said 14. Whichever it is, I mean, both those figures are obviously less than half of 30. And more to the point, these include pay-per-view dates. So when you consider when PBC first took off and they were buying up all sorts of terrestrial television, time on a wide variety of terrestrial platforms, they've gone from sort of almost trying to saturate the market to having definitely a big drop in the amount of dates and being almost specialist, because Amazon Prime, of course, is behind a paywall. So again, we're not talking terrestrial television, we're talking the polar opposite. So their model, it's almost like they've downsized to me. Now, I don't pretend to be an expert on either business, or I don't have any inside information on what this deal is. I only know what I've read on other platforms. But if you've gone from really trying to create your own dominant brand, signing up every fighter in sight, buying up every sort of spare bit of time on any old platform to put your cards on, and then 6-7 years later, whatever, you're suddenly, you're behind a paywall and you've only got, let's say, 14 dates, including the pay-per-views. That strikes me as downsizing. Other people would say, well, no, that's more of a concentration of whatever your product is, because we know pay-per-views pay more money, make more money, supposedly make more money, or potentially make more money than terrestrial dates. Again, there's a reason why Sky and DAZN have, big boxing rosters, and the BBC aren't even involved in boxing. It's still, boxing on BBC is still on the radio, put it that way. And ITV aren't into it, and Channel 5 have the odd date here and there with Wasserman. But terrestrial telly just doesn't have the deep pockets necessary to elite boxing, for regular, in-depth boxing cards. So let's say 14 dates on Amazon Prime with PBC. What this means, when they say they've got 150 fighters, give or take a few. But if you go over to their website and you read down the list of fighters, they're still listing people like Manny Pacquiao and Andre Berto, and Luis Collazo, I think, is on there. You know, and I'm thinking, well, first of all, you haven't. Not all of these. Some of these fighters are retired. But even if you take all those out, let's say for the sake of argument, you've got 120 fighters on your books. Over 14 dates, you're going to have to obviously have. You've got far less cards, so the cards perhaps are going to be much deeper. So you, instead of getting, I don't know, five fights, you'll get 10. For this, again, I'm just putting these figures out of the air, but what that means is that fighters who were used to being further up the card will now be further down the card, and one would think would get paid less for that. It also means you've got less platforms to build up fighters. Even some of the more established fighters, in fact, with PBC, the running joke is even the established fighters aren't getting enough work. So someone like Boots Ennis, for example, needs to be. I mean, Ring IQ Boxing talked about this on their video, and I think it's a very good example. Boots Ennis, you know, he should be absolutely flying now, because he's coming towards the prime of his physical prime of his career. We should be talking, you know, edging towards megastardom here, and the only way to do that is to fight regularly. Well, what about the ones that are already nowhere near as revered and as high as Boots Ennis, but are very good fighters who could, if managed right, if promoted right, become, you know, superstars, maybe even pay-per-view eventers. You know, it just seems to me that you're going to get an awful lot of fighters fighting not as much as they should be, and it was never great under Showtime with PBC, and you're also going to get a lot of fighters just getting lost in the mix. I can see a lot of fighters who are further down the food chain inevitably leaving for other pastures, especially some of the younger ones who need regular work. There is no substitute for regular work, for plying your trade, for honing your skills, for taking all those things you're learning in the gym and putting them under the bright lights. So this is a very intriguing deal. PBC and Prime, Amazon Prime, is it going to work? Everyone says, oh, you know, Amazon Prime, you know, they've got all these subscribers and however many million it is, you know, hundreds of millions. Yeah, but do any of them want to watch boxing? I mean, I know they've Amazon Prime have stuck their toes into other waters, but they're safer bets, like, you know, American football and I think tennis. Is tennis involved in it? I was reading about this. I think have they done some F1 stuff as well? I don't know. I can't remember what I read, but there were definitely sports that I read about that you would consider to be higher in terms of mainstream commercial value than boxing. Boxing remains, if not a niche sport. I mean, occasionally it comes out of its shell and there's a massive, great big blockbuster. But generally speaking, even though there's never been so much boxing on TV on a multitude of platforms in the history of the game, it's still considered kind of a niche sport because, of course, the same is true for all other sports. People are sport for choice. You know, they're inundated with choice. They almost can't handle the choice. So I don't know. I think the jury is still out on this deal with Amazon Prime. It'll be interesting to see how it goes, but I don't think there'll be too many fighters, certainly not the majority of PBC fighters, who are going to be that happy with the amount of work they're getting or the amount of exposure they're getting. And okay, in the past, Heyman has overpaid fighters and they've lined their pockets and they're like, okay, you know, I'm getting paid, I don't really mind. I just wonder if you're sixth on the bill instead of being third, and you used to look at your paycheck and you think, oh Christ, I expected more than that. You're going to stay happy? I'm not getting any sort of exposure. I'm getting far less money now. What am I doing here? I just wonder if there's going to be that reaction with a lot of these fighters. Leave your comments below. Let me know what you think about this. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you're new. Hit the like button and I'll read your comments. Maybe you share my opinion or my suspicions, because that's really all it is at the moment. Like I say, the jury is still out. But give me your views and yeah, I'll have a read of them and I'll answer them. Okay, thank you very much for your time. As always, I'll catch you later. Bye for now.